And response to the Israel-Hamas war has put a spotlight on U.S. foreign policy in a year where geopolitics took center stage. It started in February with a spy balloon, remember that? And then worsening tensions with China, which only grew when Xi Jinping visited Russia 1 year into its invasion of Ukraine. Soon after, a U.S. military leak threatened Ukraine's counteroffensive, but attention then shifted to the Middle East on October 7th with the start of the Israel-Hamas war. Then President Biden met with President Xi to try and mend their fraught relationship, and Congress ended its year without sending additional aid to its allies at war. Seth Jones joins us now with more on all of this. He's the Senior Vice President and Director of the International Security Program at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks, Chanel.
I'll start with just asking you about China. I mean, how has the U.S.-China relationship changed over the course of this year? And how would you actually define that relationship right now?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think when we look at the relationship really over the last month or so, there has certainly been a slight thawing in relations. And there are at least two major incidents that give us some indication of the thawing. One is the November 2023 meeting between Xi Jinping and President Biden in California. It was a helpful meeting. There wasn't a lot new that was advanced. But the second issue was a thaw in military-to-military ties. So we had a conversation a few days ago with the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, CQ Brown, and his equivalent in Beijing. So those are helpful steps. But I still think at the core of U.S.-China right now is intense competition in the military sphere, along the economic lines. And I will tell you, looking at China's defense industry right now, it is on what I would call a wartime footing. So I think 2024 will spell continued competition in the military and economic realm, despite this thaw that we saw near the end of the year.
You know, I want to ask you, Seth, about the Israel-Hamas war, because every day we're hearing about what's happening inside Gaza. But I just want to zoom out for a second and ask about how this conflict might actually be impacting the state of foreign affairs in the Middle East.
Yeah, that's a good. I was in the region a week and a half ago. I was on the Israel-Gaza border, so had a chance to talk to both U.S. and Israeli officials, and have talked to a number of Middle East officials since then. I think the big concern right now is that most of the media focus and the video images are of the war in Gaza right now. But what we're seeing is violence occurring on multiple fronts. Daily attacks on both the Israeli and the Hezbollah side of the Israel-Lebanon border. The U.S. has struck targets in Iraq and in and around Yemen. There have been Houthi attacks up the Red Sea. The Israelis just conducted a strike in Syria. So we're seeing violence in and around Lebanon, not just Gaza, but Lebanon, the West Bank, Syria, Iraq, Yemen. And so I think there is a growing concern right now of this Gaza war pulling in Iran more broadly and Iranian-linked groups and the U.S. And that's something we're going to have to watch very closely as we get into the new year.
And there is so much scrutiny on America and on Joe Biden with how we have dealt with this as a country. When you talk about all of these different global issues, I wonder where that puts America on the global stage.
Well, I think there certainly has been criticism both from within the United States and among populations in areas like the Middle East and in Europe about the U.S. Tying itself so publicly and viscerally with an Israeli government that has killed now or has contributed deaths of now over 20,000 Palestinian civilians. At the same time, you know, I think most public opinion polls, there's a recent Pew Charitable Trust poll that indicates that most Americans believe that Hamas was responsible for the outbreak of this war in general. So what we do see is a lot of people also blaming Hamas for starting this conflict to begin with.
Okay, Seth Jones, thanks so much for your time and perspective. We appreciate this.
Thank you very much.